Rev up your engines!
Hey Rich, that's Scotty. I watched your video last night on the evolution of gas stations. Surprised that convenience stores make more than their pumps do. You ever go to that Buc-ee's while in Houston? Oh yeah, I've been there, you know. But no, that's not surprising at all. You don't make much money on gasoline, the actual station. My old man ran gas stations when I was a kid all the time, so I learned how to fix cars, right? And he was only making pennies per gallon. The guy who owned the business made the money, right? And every week the guy was trying to raise the price. He'd lower it a little, and then he'd try to raise it so he could make more money for himself. We made our money, wasn't a convenience store in those days. We made our money fixing the cars. That's where we made our money. My grandfather was a main mechanic. I worked there. We made our money fixing cars and, as strange as it may sound, selling cigarettes. Because in those days, they had cigarette machines. And anybody could come and put in change, buy the cigarettes, smoke them, and walk out, right? We also had a pop machine that we made money on. But that was it. That was long before the day of convenience stores. Now, yeah, the convenience, look at the prices of stuff in convenience stores. Of course they're making a fortune in those things. They mainly want to get you in to buy stuff. Now they got donut shops in there. You name it. Just about everything's in them. Some of them have delis in them. That's where they make their money. Not selling the gasoline. It's the gas company itself that makes the money selling the gasoline, not the middleman. Accelerite says, Scotty got a VW 1.4 liter engine. There's a tiny leak in the cooling system. The level drops below minimum after 2,000 kilometers. Mechanic said it could be fixed with the sealant liquid. What do you think? Depends where the leak is. I like the Bars liquid sealant. It works quite well. And let's say you got a tiny gasket leak, like on the water pump or on the exterior of the head gasket. If it's on the interior, forget it. Too much pressure of the engine burning gasoline. Explosions with a lot of pressure, right? But if it's on the outside of the gasket, between the outside and a water cooling hole, sealant will often fix that. I'd say give it a try. You don't want to do it with dirty coolant. Never put sealant in the system with dirty coolant. First, flush the coolant out, put in a thermostat, everything, and then put the sealer in and see what happens. And a lot of times it will work. I fixed many cars that way. Anthony Gutierrez says, Scotty, is now the time to buy a Crown Vic, or should I wait for prices to fall? All right. Well, they don't make Crown Vics anymore. So if you can find a decent one, I'd say go ahead and buy it. You know, there's big old Panther platforms with the V8 engines, and the later model ones on the highway could get 20-something miles a gallon. They weren't gas hogged on the highway. They were decent cars. I'd say if you can find one. They're old people's cars. So somebody dies, there's an estate sale. If you find one, don't look a gift horse in the mouth and buy the thing. But if they're too high priced, wait. You know, you never know. Don't get a too old one, because they are Fords, and if they're 20, 30 years old, let me tell you, the rubber's all going to rot. The electronics is going to start shorting out and cracking. You don't want a really old one. Honda Fan 123 says, Scotty, is changing my oil every 3,000 miles too soon? Well, that depends. What kind of oil are you using? If you are using conventional oil, not a synthetic oil, no, 3,000 is fine. But if you're using synthetic, go to 5,000 mile oil changes. Or the other disclaimer would be, you got to change your oil once a year. So if you only drive 3,000 miles a year, yeah, change it once a year. Most cars today are all going to use full synthetic oil. I'd advise changing them every 5,000 miles or once a year. That's all you need to do. And buy a quality oil filter. The cheap oil filters are only good for 3,000. The good oil filter is going to go up to 10,000 miles. So if you're going to change at 5, get a good oil filter too. Peter Grant says, Scotty, how good are Foxwell scan tools with Bluetooth? I've actually tried them out. They are decent scan tools. Now, they are nothing like the Autel scan tools. They're a lot cheaper too. You know, what do you want to pay for? What do you want to get? I got a Foxwell scanner the company sent me. I think it's like a $180 scan tool. It's a pretty good $180 scan tool. But I'd rather use my $450 Autel that does tons more and is faster, more accurate, and is updated all the time. Realize the Foxwell stuff, what you buy is what you get. They don't really update much, ever. With my Autel, every week I check, and there's almost always different updates, so it can update so you can get the newest information. If you want a better one, I'd get the Autel. But the Foxwell are okay. Not great, but they're okay. And most of them are lower priced ones. And that's their market. Autel is more into guys like me, real mechanics. And they'll want maybe a $450 one for doing quickie stuff. And then they'll get the $5,000 one for the real serious in-depth analysis, where they also have oscilloscopes, freeze frame generators, have all kinds of equipment. Go to the internet and go to data systems and give you how to actually check each sensor on the screen step by step with pictures. You know, I mean, how far do you want to go? It's also how much do you want to pay? Crowbro says, Scotty, what American car would you buy if you had to? An old one. Give give me an old 60s Mustang, I could fix it up and tool around it. Have some fun with it. I wouldn't buy the new ones. I don't like the quality of their stuff. I just don't. It's not there. And if I'm spending my hard-earned cash, believe me, if somebody smashes into one of my cars, I'd probably go out and buy a Toyota Corolla hatchback or a Toyota Camry that still has an actual 8-speed automatic transmission and not a CVT. Or I road tested a RAV4 2023 and went to Death Valley, and I loved it. On the highway going 50, it got 55 miles a gallon because it had 8-speed transmission on a 4-cylinder engine, and it wasn't a hybrid, so I was impressed. Night Shark 76 says, Scotty, how do I check if I have a bad spark plug coil? There are many tests you do, from static tests of measuring the resistance to dynamic tests where you hook up a freeze frame, oscilloscope, goes on. Very complex crap, right? But let's say you have a bad coil. Have your computer and your check engine light on, you'll go to say, misfire, cylinder number 2. Okay, so if you think it's the coil, take the cylinder number 2 coil off of the car. Put it on cylinder number 4. Put the number 4 on number 2. Erase your codes, then take it for a drive. And then if the check engine light comes on, and it now says misfire cylinder number 4, the only thing you did was put coil 2 on 4. You know the coil's bad. That's a super dynamic test that's better than anything you can do sitting there with machines and analyzing and wondering, is this waveform right? No. It's a very easy thing to do. Just swap them. Because one fits the same as the other, and if it moves, it's that. If it doesn't, then maybe it's the fuel injector. If you have something that you're able to have a car that's got 4 parts, if it's a 4-cylinder, all the same on each cylinder, you can just swap them back and forth, and then you can figure what's wrong without having to spend any money at all and have it tested correctly. Rather than, gee, is this resistance ohm correct or not? Because they're never perfect. Let's say it says, well, it's got to be 200 ohm resistance, and it's 220. Is that too much or not? No. Swap one to the other, and then that's a real dynamic test that'll tell you if it's good or bad. Grace Love said, Scotty, what's your thoughts on Jeep Wrangler's 2008 year? Okay, I'm not a Jeep fan. Grandson got one, and man, he got it cheap, fixed it, and sold it to a guy and made like $15,000 on a deal. It was well made. The guy rolled it and crushed parts. He fixed the crushed parts and sold it on. I mean, they can be okay, the old ones. I wouldn't touch a new one with a 10-foot pole. Stellantis took over. It was bad enough when Fiat took over, but then Stellantis took over, and they're really horrible vehicles. And now they're going to be making Jeep Compasses in Italy. They'll be Italian vehicles, but they'll call them Jeep Compasses. All completely made in Italy, so stay away from those. AS says, what's the best way to diagnose a parasitic leach draw from a battery? Watch my video, Fixing Battery Drain on Your Car. It'll explain it all. The absolute best way is relatively complex. You get yourself a meter. You hook it up to see how much draw each particular fuse has. And there's a chart. You can watch my video. It explains it all. There's a chart. You measure them one fuse at a time. And there's a chart to say, here's what this should be for this particular amperage fuse. And if it's over that, then that's where the draw is. In the old days, we used to just put a test light. And a test light's on, then we'd pull the fuses one at a time. But unfortunately, modern cars are so complex. They have so many computer parts that pulling the fuses doesn't work like it used to. You really have to test each single fuse by the method I show in the video and then have the chart. It's a free chart. You can get it online. I got mine built into my phone now, so I can just look it up quick. And that's the most accurate way to do it. Daniel Waxer says, Scotty, I got an '03 Tundra with a new frame. What do you recommend to make it last? Well, the Tundras are great. The only problem was some of those frames in those years rotted. You got the new frame. A lot of people actually got free new frames in Toyota. I met a guy, and he went to Chicago, and he said they had a warehouse full of these frames because they built some of the frames wrong and they rotted away. And Toyota fixed a bunch of them free. If you got one of those, great. Just keep the frame rust free. It's a good frame now, but watch it. And if rocks hit it and chip off the paint, recoat it so that it doesn't start rusting. You shouldn't have a problem because the new ones are made better than the old ones were. Just keep changing the oil every 5,000 miles. Take care of it like any other vehicle. Do watch the frame that if you see chips when rocks hit them, and if it knocks the coating off, it can start to rust. And you can just have the little can of primer spray and spray over it. Check it every once in a while. Rocky Highway Road says, my Ford Probe leans to the right. Mechanic says the lasers show the frame is aligned. What else could cause this? Okay, well, the guy says the lasers show him. That means he's one of those modern mechanics who doesn't know crap about cars. They bring in, they put it on an alignment machine that has lasers, and oh, it's lined right. Okay, your car's leaning. You got to look at the physical things first, right? Your springs and the coils could be shot, and one side's broken, so it's going to lean to that side. Control arm could be bent. All kinds of suspension things can make it lean to one side. You don't put it on a machine and say, well, the lasers say it's okay. That's the problem today. These guys call themselves technicians, right? Oh, I'm not a mechanic, I'm a technician. I'm not a garbage man, I'm a sanitation engineer, right? Hey, I'm a mechanic. A real mechanic looks at the physical stuff first. You don't start with a laser alignment machine. You start by looking at the physical stuff, and in that case, it's probably a broken spring or a bent control arm. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.